So I'm sitting here with Kayla, and she has agreed to be my first volunteer for Hypnosis Hot Seat, so you can see how hypnotherapy works. She's very brave.
Thank you.
And we're just going to let this be organic. So I'm just going to be like any other session. I'm going to be asking a lot of questions. We'll kind of unravel things together.
Mm-hmm.
People don't have to necessarily prep anything ahead of time. Whatever comes up, comes up.
Right.
And I've also explained to her that she's signed a consent. She knows that this is going to go public. She doesn't have to share any more details than she's comfortable with. So, if there's something that happened that she doesn't want the whole world to know, she can kind of give me hints, give me pointers, because obviously I have to know what we're dealing with to some degree, but I don't need to know any more details than she's comfortable sharing. Okay? So, when you texted me today, you mentioned that you had a breakup.
Correct.
And since then, what has been the struggle? What have you been dealing with?
I think throughout the end of the relationship up until recently, a lot of betrayal came to light where it kind of painted a picture to where there was a lot of overlapping of people, if that makes sense. I wouldn't call it a triangle.
Okay.
But there was a third and a fourth party involved.
Okay. And you did not know about these people?
I always had a gut feeling, but I never...
The gut always knows, right?
Right. But I never had evidence until the end of the relationship. And recently, the relationship's absolved, and I spoke to one of the third parties. And we matched up timelines. But throughout the relationship itself, I definitely always had this gut instinct that something was always off. So I would kind of pry for it.
Mm-hmm. So when you say pry, what does that mean? Like checking his phone?
No, not
her
phone.
phone. Sorry.
But I would, kind of, not necessarily passive aggressive, but in a sense testing of certain questions,
Mm-hmm.
Also blatantly asking, like, what's going on? Is there something involved with another person? Things of that nature.
So you asked directly and you were lied to?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when you say passive aggressive, what does that mean to you?
I don't know if I'm using the correct...
It doesn't matter, but that's why I'm asking what you mean by that.
Testing in terms of like, oh, were you with someone, or... Because I don't know. But I'm acting as if like you were. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So you don't have to give this person's real name, but what's a name that I can refer to him as?
Say Robert.
Robert. Okay. That makes it easy to say, that guy.
Okay. I'll try to remember.
Right. I'll just be saying Robert, so it'll be easy for you to remember. Okay. So what were the things that you noticed that tipped you off, that made that gut alarm go off?
Changes of behavior. I think, if you're in a relationship, the phone goes up and then the phone goes down. Mm-hmm. Noticing like things like texting away. I think
like turning his phone away.
Slightly. Okay. Also changes of stories, and his own timelines didn't match up, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So the third parties that were involved were exes. So whenever they were brought up, the storylines were always changing. So it just didn't make any sense. So that also created a lot of questions because there was no stability, I think. Right.
Okay. So, and then you would ask, you were bold enough to actually ask directly, and he was bold enough to lie.
Right, and in his opinion, his lies weren't lies because they were just withholding, but I believe in, lying by omission. Mm-hmm. Obviously, there's...
Well, if you ask directly, then that's not just omission, right?
Right.
You asked a direct question, that's lying. Regardless, so were they actually like sleeping together, or were they just hanging out?
From my knowledge, one of the third parties, as far as what's gone between them two, was only kissing. Mm-hmm. The other third/fourth party, I never got an answer from. I didn't really ask her that question either, if they were, platonic or intimate or not. I just asked where they stand, so I knew how to go about it. And respectfully, if she wanted to entertain him, then I would take my leave. Like, if there were still feelings there, because these two third parties were exes.
Okay, so you were friends with them as well?
not friends with them. I just knew of them because they're his exes. So I reached out at the end of the relationship.
Gotcha.
We weren't fully done, but we were already rocky. So I was like,
Okay.
I had nothing to lose either.
Right.
Have the truth or not.
Okay. So were there other issues in the relationship?
I wouldn't say so. For what it's worth, during the relationship, I thought everything was great. In hindsight, looking back, there was definitely a ton of love bombing, future faking, things like that. So it's hard to say now because.
So when you say love bombing, he was just like laying it on really thick, like I love you, I want to spend my life with you, that kind of thing, or what?
I wouldn't say like spend my life with you, but he would say things like, I want to build a future together. Like, these are things I want with you. I see nothing.
And how long had you been together when that started?
I think it was fairly early. I think he said, I love you. He said, I love you. I want to say a month in.
Okay.
So.
Which for some people might be normal, but, for you, in hindsight, you're like, maybe that was a little much,
I mean, I think for me, the feeling was mutual. So when he said it first, I was like, okay, I feel the same. But like I said, looking back, I'm like, wait, you said everything I wanted to hear. So it's kind of interesting. But the actions never followed the words.
Okay. So other than these other indiscretions or relationships, was there any other ways that the actions did not follow the words?
Kind of hard to say because for me, I still thought he was great at other things like holding space. I have obviously my own issues. I'm a human being too. I'm not perfect. So for what it's worth, I do think he did the best.
Okay. Generous of you.
Yeah.
So when you finally found out and you had like the actual evidence, these other girls told you, and you confronted him, did he finally admit it, or he still held to the lie?
He was really good with his words. He was very persuasive in terms of being able to flip it to where it's like, I handled things wrong. The optics of it looks like horrible. And saying things like, this means so much to me and I want to work on this. Like, I'm not going to lie to you anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think he took...
I'm not going to lie to you anymore. That's what he said. Well, that kind of implies.
Right. So he took accountability. He did.
Okay.
But after taking accountability again,
he backtracked.
No actions followed. So it's hard to...
So when you say, what action would you have expected to see to
actually
support?
Stop lying and actually stop entertaining your exes, for sure.
So he continued even after that point.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I think he would bounce between all three of us girls, for sure.
All right. So I'm going to explain something about parts of the subconscious in a moment. Okay. And I'm glad that you have some, you're able to see the good with the bad in him. Like, you don't just like paint him with a big wide brush, like he's evil.
Yeah, right.
So obviously you've done some work and you figured out you're pretty self-aware.
Yeah.
It seems like, which is great. Now, when you found out, when you had that gut feeling and it wasn't verified, and then you finally found out, what did you feel? Like, what emotion did you feel?
So, to backtrack a little bit, when I was feeling these emotions, but I wasn't really, there was no evidence. So what I would do was try to suppress them, right? But what it would cause is me to, withhold. So sometimes I would withhold intimacy. Sometimes I would just kind of give silent treatment because I was feeling some type of way, but I didn't know exactly how to vocalize it. And I also felt unsure.
Right. So you didn't really trust yourself.
Right. Fully. Trust myself, trust him.
And that's really the worst crime I think that people can do, in my opinion.
Yeah, we lose our trust in ourselves.
Taking your ability to trust yourself away. So when they're lying, and
you question yourself.
Right.
Sure.
And then they make you think you're crazy or there's something wrong with you, and gaslighting basically.
So I ended up gaslighting myself, actually. But it also made me very angry. So I would blow up, there's, parts of the relationship where I was actually very vicious with my words because just things didn't feel right. This was more so when I had some evidence, when I became pretty vicious, I would say. But what was the question that you were asking? So
the question was, when you were feeling all of that, so you already said you identified one emotion was anger, but anger is always a secondary emotion, right? So was it hurt? Was it betrayal? Was it
Yeah, it was.
fear? Like, what was the
I
main?
felt unwanted.
Unwanted.
Definitely, like I was just an option, not the choice, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That I was kind of like someone in the meantime, not actually someone he wanted to build with.
So, which makes us generally feel not good enough in some way, right?
For sure, a little bit of rejection too.
Right. Okay, so unwanted, not good enough, and rejected. So now my next question is, which may get to some of the other stuff we were talking about. What's an earlier time? So close your eyes for a second. Okay. So when you just go ahead and allow yourself to bring up those thoughts and feelings of he was lying, you couldn't pin it down, you didn't trust yourself, but you feel rejected, you feel unwanted. And when you think about those feelings, where do you feel them in your body? Chest, stomach, head, throat?
Definitely my stomach and my throat.
Okay.
A little bit in my chest.
Okay. And then just hold on to that feeling for a moment and allow a younger Kayla to come into your mind. And how old is she when you think about a younger Kayla that felt those same feelings in her throat and stomach?
I want to say 11.
Okay. And what was going on with 11-year-old Kayla?
We had just moved and my mom was really busy. She was going through her own things and not really there.
Okay. And so what was little Kayla? Was she just alone or feeling like mom didn't have time for her?
Yeah, I would say alone. Definitely my brother is 4 years older than me, so we didn't necessarily play together anymore at that age. Figuring out a new school and new friends.
Okay. And so what I'd like you to do, with your permission, of course, I want you to imagine bringing that 11-year-old Kayla in your mind's eye. Just bring her into this room here with you now. And I want you to get on eye level with her. I don't know how tall you were at that age, but just get on her eye level. Take her hands in yours and just look her in the eye. And you can do all of this silent in your mind, okay, so you have privacy. Let that 11-year-old girl tell you everything she's feeling. She's displaced. She's alone. People don't have time for her. And when she knows that finally somebody really understands, finally somebody really cares about what she's going through, when she feels heard and understood, just let me know by saying the word, okay. Okay. Now I want you to ask her a question, Kayla. I want you to ask that little girl, is it okay to let that sadness and loneliness go? She doesn't have to know how to do it. Just ask her, is it okay to let it go? Yes or no? Now, either answer is okay. I know what to do if she says no. Okay. Is it okay to let it go? Yes or no?
She said yeah.
She said yes? Wonderful. But that doesn't mean she knows how. I need you to show her how. So in your mind's eye, I want you to put your arms around that little girl. I want you to make her feel so loved, so safe, and so wanted. I want you to tell her how much she matters. She matters so much. You've come all the way back through time just for her. And when you've loved her and hugged her and told her everything she needs to hear to really let this pain, this sadness go, when you can see her smiling, let me know when she's smiling and just keep loving her until you can get her to that smile. Just say okay when you can see her smiling. Beautiful. Now I want you to do something a little bit strange. I want you to imagine you're going to shrink her down to the size of the palm of your hand and put her right inside of your heart where she knows she'll never be alone. You will always be there loving her, reminding her of what's good and beautiful about her, making her feel wanted. And Kayla, I want you to make a promise to that little girl. I want you to promise her that you will always put her first, her needs, her feelings. As her protector, she is your number one responsibility. And can you make that promise to that little girl?
Yes.
Beautiful. Now I want the two of you to go back in time together, and we're just going to change this memory a little bit more. Now, she was feeling sad and lonely, but what she would have liked to have felt, right, would be loved and wanted and accepted, all the things that are opposite of those things that Robert, the Robert we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
The opposite of way you felt with him, right? So loved, wanted, accepted, right, good enough. Anything else that little Kayla needed to feel that she wasn't able to feel because of circumstances?
Heard and
Heard
seen.
and seen. Beautiful. So we're going to put that memory aside for just a moment. You're doing fantastic. And we're going to go in another direction. We're going to bring in some positive memories, okay? So I want you just to allow your unconscious to bring up into your awareness any memory, any time with anyone. It could be last week, last month, last year, when you were 2 years old, it doesn't matter. Any memory where you felt the feeling of love. And when you can think of it, just let me know by saying the word okay. It doesn't have to be the right or the perfect memory, just any memory that you felt love. Got one? Okay, take your time. It could be with a friend. It could even be with a pet dog. Okay. And be in that memory, see who's there, and notice where you feel that feeling of love. Let that feeling begin to spread and grow and get bigger. Spread and grow and get warmer. Bigger and warmer, bigger and brighter. And take your left hand and squeeze it into a fist. Now, I notice you have long nails, so just make sure you don't stab yourself. Beautiful. And then you can relax your fist and open it up. Think of any memory where someone made you feel wanted. Someone, any age, any time, even a friend, made you feel wanted. And when you can think of it, say, okay. And feel that feeling of being wanted and squeeze it into the same fist. Beautiful. And relax it. Any memory where you felt accepted just for you. And our pet dogs are perfect for this because they don't care if you got your makeup on or money in the bank, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you can feel that kind of acceptance, squeeze it into your fist. Wonderful. And any memory where you knew that you were good enough. Now it could be work-related, school-related, or meditating. It doesn't matter. But you felt that you knew that you were good enough. And when you can feel that, squeeze it. Wonderful. And any memory where you felt heard and seen. Somebody really was listening. They saw you. They heard you. And when you can feel that, squeeze it. Now I want you to keep squeezing your fist this time. We're going to go back to where that 11-year-old Kayla was. And I'm going to ask you to do something a little bit strange. I want you to imagine you're going to step inside of her body. Fill that little girl up on the inside of her heart, her mind, her energy body with love. Feeling wanted, accepted, knowing she's good enough, feeling heard and seen because she's heard and seen by you. And how does that little girl's facial expression and body language change? And tell me out loud how she looks different.
She's definitely, a little bit taller, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
She's smiling.
Smiling?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, I don't know the circumstances around why your mom, so was your dad not around or?
Correct.
And so she was having to work enough and take care of everything?
Correct.
So she could have used some support, right? So
Absolutely.
Relax your fist for just a moment and think of a time when you felt support. And let me know when you can think of it. Could be financial, emotional, somebody who's helping you move or helping you with a project, any type of support. Great. And I want you to keep squeezing your fist, and I want you just to imagine that mom's in this scene now. Okay, she got home from work, whatever. And so I want you to imagine stepping inside of her body. Give her what she needed. She needed support. And she needed to feel loved and seen and heard. And know that she was good enough. And how does your mom look and feel differently?
Her head's not down, it's up.
Beautiful. And I want you to use your imagination. We're literally just going to revise or change this memory. I want you to imagine mom's there. She's feeling happy and supported. Her head is up. Kayla's smiling and looking taller. And I want you to imagine that the two of you are doing something fun together. Now, it could be making dinner, going for a bike ride, or just watching a movie on the couch. But tell me what you choose to see and make up, the two of you interacting.
We're making cupcakes.
Making cupcakes. Beautiful. And how does little Kayla feel making cupcakes with her mom?
She's very joyful.
Joyful. Beautiful. So, Kayla, I want you to take 3 deep breaths and say, silent your mind. I'm safe now. It's over. I'm safe now. It's over. I'm safe now. It's over. 3 more. I am wanted. I am wanted. I am wanted and I'm loved. I'm more than good enough. I am loved, I'm wanted, and I'm more than good enough. Just being Kayla. And it's safe to be happy. It's safe to be happy. Now I want you to keep squeezing your fist. And I want you just to let your unconscious mind, which processes millions of bits of information per second, just to imagine coming forward, infusing every memory, situation, and event subsequent to that event with this love, acceptance, feeling wanted, good enough, heard and seen and supported. Giving all of those little Kaylas that support, love, and acceptance. Infusing every memory with love, acceptance, feeling wanted, good enough, seen and heard, all the way forward through time to back to this present moment. I'm going to count from 1 to 3. On 3, you can open your eyes, feeling wonderful in every way. 1, knowing I am loved and I am wanted. 2, I'm more than good enough. And 3, eyes open. So, I want to take a moment. How are you feeling?
Good.
Good. So, let's test our work a little bit. Okay, that's okay. So just for a second this time, close your eyes and just think about everything we were talking about before. Him cheating on you, your gut was going off, you're feeling rejected, not good enough, all of that. And how is that feeling in your throat and your stomach now as you think about all of that now? The same, less, or gone?
I don't really feel anything, so I'd say gone.
Gone. Wonderful. You can open your eyes. So that's how we test. Now, of course, the real proof's in the pudding, right? You get out there and live your life and see if it's gone. But I've had hundreds of people with results that it is gone, right? Mm-hmm. So one of the things that's a little bit weird about this work is you're trying to notice what's not there, right? Mm-hmm. So you had anxiety, and then you're trying to notice that it's gone. Well, if your knee hurts, the only thing you can think about is your knee. When your knee stops hurting, the last thing you're thinking about is your knee, right? So it can be a little bit weird to notice what's not there. But so then the homework is just really just to kind of pay attention and notice, like, oh, yeah, I didn't have that reaction that time. Or, oh, yeah, it's been like 2 days and I didn't feel that anxiety. Mm-hmm. So just kind of, pay attention and be aware. Okay. So we still have to deal with Robert. Okay. But is there any other major memories that you can think of, before 11, after 11, before Robert, that you can think of that were, small, medium, or big size traumas or difficulties growing up that when you think about it, it still maybe bugs you, or maybe you haven't thought about it, but, if you do think about it now.
I don't really have any that's prominent coming to my mind.
Okay. So you would say you had a happy childhood?
Oh, we're talking about my childhood?
We're talking about your childhood.
I'd say prominent enough is just whenever my mom would get angry, I would have to, keep my mouth shut, because anytime me and my brother would speak, it would just kind of fuel her fire. So we learned to stay quiet and do our own thing until our mom calmed down.
Okay. So the consequence of you not keeping your mouth shut was her screaming louder or doing something that was even more painful.
Right.
Right?
Or anytime, like, I remember significantly, there was a time that I was crying, but it upset my mom, so I had to, like, run out of the house and into the garage to self-soothe and wait till I finished crying to go back into the house.
How old were you when that happened?
I think I was around the same age, 11.
Okay. So,
a little younger.
If you think about what you could have learned in that moment, is to stuff it down, right? Because if you speak up, what happens? It gets worse. So that played out with Robert, right? Because you were having all these feelings and you did eventually speak out, but I'm sure for a long time you didn't, right?
Yeah.
Because you were conditioned as a child, keep your mouth shut or things get worse.
Right.
Right?
Or when you're feeling emotions, to handle them on your own.
Right, handle them on your own. So that's why you're in this conflict, right? I feel it, but don't say anything. But I feel it, deal with it yourself, right? Which of course isn't healthy, but it was a conditioned response. It was a learning that you had. So let me talk about those parts for a moment that I said we were going to double back to. So so a couple things about the subconscious mind. Your conscious mind can process 30 to 40 bits of information per second, give or take.
Okay.
Your unconscious can process millions, right? 30 millions. They don't really interface, right? It'd be possible for the conscious mind to keep up. So none of us really know what's going on in your subconscious, right? It remembers everything you've ever seen, heard, smelled, tasted, felt as you were in the womb. We can't remember that consciously. Right? Now, just as a little caveat, it remembers your original perception of it. So if two people have a fight 10 years from now, their memories of it's going to be completely different. And memories do get changed over time, but what stays the same is the feeling, right? And what we made that mean. What we made it mean about life. Is the world safe? Are men safe? Is it safe to express myself? Am I good enough? Like with the meaning that came out of it and the feeling usually stay, even though we may morph the details, right? So that's one breakdown in communication. Now, the other breakdown, this is World According to Serena, by the way. You can't look this up in a science book. The conscious mind thinks, now that's a small, slow computer, right? Conscious mind. It thinks in words and logic. Right. It likes things to be logical, likes to figure it out and be really smart.
Black and white.
Linear thinking, the equation should add up, be logical. The unconscious mind, the supercomputer, is not logical. It thinks in terms of metaphor and symbolism, pictures and movies from the past, and it's motivated by how things make you feel. Now, we also have different parts, so they don't communicate in that way either. So your conscious mind's trying to be logical, and your unconscious mind's like, I don't even know what you're talking about. If it was logical, also, we could tell it what to do, and it would get it, and then it would change, right?
Right.
People would just stop smoking or stop eating cookies, but it doesn't work that way. So we also have multiple parts of our subconscious. It's kind of like we're all multiple personality, not in the diagnosable sense, okay? But just in one part wants to eat cookies, one part wants to lose weight, right? One part wants to speak your truth, the other part is afraid to speak up, right? So these parts can be in conflict. Like I said, cookies, losing weight, smoking, wanting to quit, whatever the case may be. But even emotionally, they can be in conflict, right? So one part, like I said, wants to speak up, and then the other part is like, no, it gets worse if you do that, so keep your mouth shut, right? So now so I made up silly stories to explain. So the only person that ever spent time with Sally and loved her was Grandma, and Grandma always made chocolate chip cookies. A part of her mind will make an association between love and cookies. Now, there's no love in cookies, but in her mind there is. Right? And she grows up and she's overweight, and now every time she's sad or lonely, this well-meaning part, just wanting her to feel Grandma's love, goes, quick, get some cake or cookies. Right? Then she eats the whole box of cookies, then another part comes out. It's like, love, who's going to love you, fat cow? Beats herself up. Right? Now she's feeling even worse. Now the first part's like, oh no, she's feeling even worse. Maybe it's ice cream that we need.
Yeah.
Right? And because it has one tool in its toolbox.
Yeah.
Sweets equals love. So those parts are obviously in conflict. That part we would say is trying to feel good, right? Love. There's different forms of good. Love, fun, happiness, excitement. Now another girl's nervous about taking a test. She sees her friend biting her nails. She decides to try it. It works. She feels better. And in that moment, this part goes, oh, I'm in charge of stress management. Now I know what to do every time Sally's nervous, have her bite her nails, and all is well. Right? So that part's trying to help her avoid feeling stress. Now, feeling bad could be stress, embarrassment, shame, rejection, whatever, right? But all parts of you are motivated by three things. Of course, protecting you, keeping you safe and alive is number one. Avoiding feeling bad or feeling good. That's it.
Yeah.
But they can be confused about what that means because the cookie eating part of Sally wants her to feel good. It just isn't working. So they have what we call a positive intention, but it doesn't mean that what they're doing is actually working. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So there's a part of you that was trying to protect you by keeping your mouth shut, right? And you learned over time when we're taught not to express ourselves, we learn not to express it, and then we can. Fortunately, I don't think you're to this point. Yay, because that's when it can sometimes come out as illness. We suppress even feeling it, right? Because what feels worse? To say how you feel and be ignored, or to not say it? Feels worse to say it and be ignored, right? So then we learn not to express it, but then feeling it and having it ignored also feels terrible. So then we sometimes can learn not to even feel it consciously, and we suppress it even deeper. So with your permission, of course, I would like to go in and just revise that memory with Mom as well. Okay. Right? And we already gave Mom a little bit of good stuff, right? So if you were to know where her anger came from, I mean, do you know anything about her childhood? Okay?
Yeah, definitely. She came from, both verbally and physically abusive childhood. So for my mom, as long as she wasn't hitting us, she was doing the best she could.
Right.
As well as she didn't know how to hold her own emotions, so it was hard for her to hold ours as well. Right. For sure. So she needed all the same things: love, acceptance, to be heard and seen, all of that, right? Sure. Is there anything else that she needed to be a better mom, to have those skills or have those resources? Just definitely support, because she was the single mother, kind of, on her own, moved to a new state.
And to know that she was good enough. So, yeah, it sounds pretty comprehensive. So the reason why I like to go and take people in to change these memories, like I said, once again, ruled according to Serena, but your unconscious mind remembers everything, right? And those movies, even if you're not thinking about it consciously, even if you can't remember it consciously, it doesn't mean that your unconscious mind doesn't remember it, and those movies are just playing, right? And every time they play, they're kind of re-traumatizing you over and over again, right? And they're still telling you, keep your mouth shut. They're still telling you, you're not safe, right? And so by changing these memories, it's like recording a new movie on top of an old VHS tape. I know you're too young for that. But you could just record something new, right, on top of the tape. So rewrite CDs are the same way.
Right.
So by doing that, then a new movie plays with new things that they said. Their face looks different.
Mm-hmm.
We felt different. And now that new movie's telling you, I'm safe, like we did a moment ago. It's safe to express myself, or things like that, right? So that's really the purpose of it. So we definitely want to do that. Now, I'm sure there's a bunch of times that may have happened with mom, right? But were there any other major themes? So we don't need to go into every time mom did that. Thank goodness we'd be here for 2 weeks. Right?
Right.
But if we change, like one memory, the unconscious mind does most of the work for you or us behind the scenes after the session, and it applies those positive changes to all the other memories, forwards and backwards in time. Okay? So, but is there any other major different kinds of traumas or different kinds of bad things that you can think of?
No.
Great. Not just with mom, but with anything in childhood.
Right.
Okay. So you weren't like made fun of at school or...
Oh, I was actually.
Okay.
You're right. I've always been pretty tiny, so when I moved, I never got called like skinny or bulimic, anorexic, which again, for a young kid, well,
Approximately
I
what age was that? Approximately.
This was middle school.
Okay. So like 12, 11, 12?
12 to 14, I'd say.
Okay. And do you remember that kid's face or that kid's name that used to call you those things?
I don't quite remember his name, but I remember one of the boys' faces. He would ride my school bus.
Okay. That kid.
Yeah.
Okay. So now, did he bully other people too, or he just singled you out?
He pretty much tried with everyone for sure.
Yeah. So he was just that kid.
Yeah.
Yeah. The schoolyard bully. So, so we'll just change him. Now we'll do this one a little bit differently because you don't have a relationship with him.
Right.
So we'll just kind of like, kick ass and take names later. Because you don't have a relationship with him, you don't need to like work it out per se.
Mm-hmm.
Now we know that bullies, he's probably being beat up by his dad or his older brother.
He's projecting for sure.
He's projecting, right? So, I'll give you the options. So option A is kind of do what we did before with your mom and give him what he needed to be nicer.
Mm-hmm.
Or option B is just kind of like you send him to juvie or something. All we're looking for, we know we're making it up. Now your conscious mind's going to remember the real one, but your unconscious mind doesn't care as long as it has a new experience to go, oh, cool, right?
Yeah.
So we just want to give your subconscious mind closure so that the 10 or 12-year-old inside of you goes, it's over.
Yeah.
Right? So that movie's not still playing. So it just has a different, like a happy ending or a final ending,
Yeah.
Which one resonates for you better?
I think giving him compassion. So A.
I normally wouldn't even give that option, but I'm like, she's a really sweet, aware girl, so we'll give her the option. Okay. So we'll give that to him too. So compassion, empathy, right? Because obviously he didn't know what those things looked like or felt like. Beautiful. So now, these things happen as children, and it wasn't like you were, beaten and locked in your room or anything like drastic. But it doesn't mean that you weren't traumatized. It doesn't mean it didn't have effect on you. So these things that happen, like I said, you learn not to express yourself. Mom's working, you feel unwanted, rejected, alone.
Mm-hmm.
You're skinny, you're anorexic. You know what I mean? I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
Oh, it's affirmed somewhere else that I'm not good enough. So then we arrive in adulthood, less than confident, right? I say we arrive like tattered soldiers. Now, if we got to 18 and we were happy, well-adjusted, felt good about ourselves, you might not have stuck around to be with Robert as long as you did, right? How old are you now, Kayla?
27.
27. So, and how old were you when you met him?
26.
20. Oh, so not that long.
Right.
Any other significant relationships in that period that we need to deal with? Nothing bad.
Not that period.
Like from 18 to 26 or...
I think one, I was 23.
Okay. And what was the problem with that relationship?
Kind of similar, no betrayal, but I was, spoken down to.
Mm-hmm.
He was very harsh with his words and his tone. So I feel like...
And what first name would you like to refer to him as?
I would say Andy.
Andy, okay. Okay, so we know these are aliases, y'all. Okay.
Yeah. I had to think of really obscure names.
Okay. Raggedy Andy. No. Okay, so he would just speak down to you and make you feel bad about yourself.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we do the bigger work a little bit in childhood because that's where it really starts.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you bring all of these resources with you, you'd be like, loser, be gone.
Yeah.
Like you wouldn't have stuck around.
Because that little child I'm not going to let stick around either. Yeah.
Pardon?
Because I wouldn't want them to be, treating my little
Of
self
course.
that way.
Of course. Because you made that promise to her that you're
Mm-hmm.
going to put her first, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it really helps to separate out because it's really, people are told, oh, you should love yourself. Well, what does that mean? How are you supposed to do that? But this work gives you an experience. Oh, I see my younger self. I love her.
Mm-hmm.
I nurture her the way I would my own child.
Yeah.
And then it's an experience of self-love, right? It's just better. It works better. It actually works. And then you make that vow that you put yourself first. And it doesn't feel like selfishness because you're putting the little girl first.
Yeah, you're more committed.
Who would not put a child first, but you just happen to be yourself as a child. Okay, so we'll just rewrite that very quickly. We don't even have to necessarily have a conversation with him unless you want to. Do you feel like there was severe damage there, or you just stayed too long and put up with it too long?
I think I just stayed too long.
Okay. And then with Robert, okay, so back to Robert for a moment and parts. Okay, so I made up these stories, love and cookies, nail biting and stress. Now I'm going to go there about Robert, okay? All parts of us want to feel good or avoid feeling bad. So imagine, I didn't make this up about Robert, I made this up long ago, but it applies to Robert. Imagine there's a 12-year-old boy, fat and pimply. Mm-hmm. All the boys tease him mercilessly. The girls want nothing to do with him. Mm-hmm. Has some self-esteem issues, right? Then he grows up and goes to college. He thins out, buffs out, skin clears up. Now he's hot, right? Yeah. All the boys want him at their party. All the girls want to take him home. Yeah. Right? Life is good. So this part of him that's been dying for acceptance, dying for recognition and love, go to parties and take girls home. I am, it casts me out. So everything's fine in college. And then he decides another part of him wants more intimacy, security, love, deeper relationship. He gets into a relationship, and then things are great until 6 months, a year down the road. And then maybe he loses his job or he's starting to feel insecure about something. And then that insecurity comes back like he felt when he was 12. And this part, just like cookies don't really work, but this part has one tool in his toolbox, eat sweets to feel love. This part goes, we don't want him to feel the way he felt back at 12 years old. Quick, do something, red alert. And he goes to a bar and takes a girl home. Yeah. Right? So it sounds worse. It's easier to judge. We're like, what a jerk, philanderer. But it actually works the same way. Yeah. Whether it's gambling or doing drugs or smoking or eating cookies, all parts are trying to help us feel good or avoid feeling bad. And some, have bigger consequences for other people and some have bigger consequences for ourselves. Right. And some have both. Our coping mechanisms. Right. Sure. So it's not that we're excusing his behavior, but when you understand how it works, it is a little bit easier to have compassion. You can't unknow what you know. Right. You're going to have that, your ego and your higher self going, jerk. Like, but I know why he's doing it. Yeah. Right? Yeah, exactly. Such an asshole. But I know that he has needs. You know what I mean? And you understand how it works. And so it doesn't mean that part of you that gets hurt or is judging or whatever goes away completely. But that voice keeps getting quieter and the more aware, wise voice gets louder. Right. So it makes non-judgment a lot, almost an unavoidable path after a while. Yeah, it is intense. Okay, so we're going to we've already got these wonderful emotions anchored. And you didn't say you really needed to add any more because we already added support as well. So we're just going to go into this memory with where you had to go and cry in the thing. We're going to, same thing, bring your younger self into this room, let her express everything because she couldn't express it to mom. Yeah. Right? And reintegrate that child as well. go back, and this time I'm going to have you actually have a conversation with your mom, though. So still privacy for mine. We don't know what you're saying. You can yell and scream, or you can be vulnerable and cry, whatever's authentic. But what I tell people is, we suppress things, right? And we throw it in the trash can.
Yeah.
And then you suppress something else and you throw it in the trash can. Eventually that trash is coming up and you're having to hold the lid on, right?
Yeah.
Now, enough stuff you're trying to hold in there, pretty soon you're using most of your energy every day just trying to hold the lid on that trash can. And that's exhausting.
Yeah.
You're young, but wait till if you hadn't done this work and you get to 40, you're like, I can't do it anymore. So this is a chance by even having the conversation here, it dumps the trash can. You finally get to express it all. She never has to hear it, the real one. We don't have to hear it, but you get to say it. It makes all the difference, okay? So, now if you want to say it out loud, you can, but most people prefer,
Okay.
it's totally up to you. So you get, and they'll be back and forth with that. Okay? And then we give her the resources, change it. Then we go to with the boy on the bus, and you can have a conversation with him too, because you get to, because you're so oneness minded, I would say, you get to express, what you felt, what he did to you, but you probably also maybe want to speak for the other people he was doing this to. You know what I mean? Like, be the defender of the weak, know. And another thing, that boy, you were doing that too. So, and then we'll just give him the resources, the compassion. Oh, we do need to anchor at compassion, empathy. I forgot. So we'll add that first.
Okay.
And change him. Then just give your 23-year-old self, like she's feeling like $1 million. I know what I deserve. Andy, forget it. Forget you. Right?
Yeah.
And then kind of the same thing with Robert. Okay.
That's good.
So, good on bathroom breaks, everything like that? Okay, awesome. Do you want to put the chair back?
Sure.
We could do actual hypnosis this time, even though you really did it already, but it was unofficial.
Sounds good.
Okay. I'm just going to have you place your hands palm upward. Okay. And take a deep breath and close your eyes down. And bring your focus and awareness to the inside of your right palm. And then move your focus and awareness to the inside of your right elbow. And into your right shoulder. Across to your left shoulder. Down into your left elbow. And down into your left palm. Over to your right palm. To the inside of your right elbow. Into your right shoulder. Across to your left shoulder. Down into your left elbow. And down into your left palm. And now bring your awareness to your eyes. Relax your eyes and the muscles around your eyes fully and completely. In fact, relax them so much that as long as you maintain that level of relaxation, you'll find that they just won't work. When you've achieved that level of relaxation, go ahead and test them and find that you've been successful. Very good. Stop trying and go twice as deep. And take that relaxation that you've achieved around your eyes, send it up to the top of your head and all the way down to the tips of your toes in a warm wave of relaxation, and just notice how good that feels. In a moment, not now, but in a moment, I'm going to ask you to open your eyes and close them again. And when you close them, you can allow yourself to go up to 5 times deeper. Open your eyes, close your eyes, 5 times deeper. Deeper and deeper still. In a moment, not now, but in a moment, I'm going to ask you to open and close your eyes again. And this time when you close them, you may find yourself going up to 10 times deeper. Open your eyes, close your eyes, 10 times deeper. That's it. You're doing perfectly. In a moment, not now, but in a moment, I'm going to ask you to open and close your eyes one more time. And this time when you close them, just let yourself go much deeper. Open your eyes, close your eyes, much deeper all the way down. And in your mind's eye, see yourself standing on top of a hill or a mesa, and a big white fluffy cloud floats over. It's a magical cloud that can hold your body weight. You step onto the cloud and make yourself really comfortable. As I count backwards from 5 down to 1, that cloud will take you down and down, deeper and deeper into hypnosis. 5 going down, down, deeper down. 4 swirling down. 3 drifting down. 2 floating down, and 1 all the way down. Now I'd like you to allow your unconscious to bring up into your awareness any memory, any time with anyone where you felt the feeling of compassion. When you can think of it, just say, okay. And be in that memory, feel that compassion, and squeeze it into that same left fist. And relax your fist. Any memory where you felt empathy, like you really knew what somebody else was feeling, or you knew that they knew what you were feeling, either way, that feeling of empathy, when you can feel that, squeeze it. And relax your fist. Now I want you to allow your unconscious to take you back in time to that memory when you were having to go to the garage to cry. And when you can see or perceive that young Kayla in some way, say, okay. And I want you to bring her through time to this room here with you now. And same thing, you're going to take her hands in yours, look her in the eye, and let her express not only the original thing she's feeling, she's so upset she's crying, and now she can't even express it. It's completely frustrating, perhaps hopeless, unheard, unseen. Let her express all of that to you. And when she feels truly heard and understood, let me know by saying, okay. Okay. And ask her if it's okay to let that pain go, yes or no. Yes. Beautiful. So put your arms around her. Make her feel safe, loved. And let her know that you are here to listen. Let her know that you see her. And it's absolutely okay to have those feelings and to express those feelings. And tell her anything else she needs to hear to let this go. When you can see her smiling, let me know when she's smiling. Okay, beautiful. And shrink her down and put her in your heart with the other one. And then the two of you go back in time together. This time she's not alone. She has you like a guardian angel from the future. And I want you to see your mom in front of you now. You can do this also in the privacy of your mind, but I want you to, she cannot move, she cannot speak, she's not going to yell or scream or any of that stuff from the past. She's only going to listen. And take this opportunity to say everything you've ever needed to say, wanted to say, everything you've ever needed her to acknowledge. I want you to really go for it. Don't hold back. Say everything right now. When you've said absolutely everything, let me know by saying, okay. Okay. Now I want you to imagine it's almost like God himself came down and shook her by the shoulders, and the light bulb goes on. And she knows what you said is true. And she does feel terrible. When you can see that look of remorse and awareness, say, okay. Now, in a moment, I'm going to say the word switch. When I do, I want you to imagine switching places with your mom. And you're going to apologize to your daughter, Kayla. 1, 2, 3, switch. Be in her body and apologize to your daughter, Kayla. A genuine, heartfelt apology. And let me know when you're done. Doing it perfectly. Okay. Now I'm going to have you switch back to your current age body. 1, 2, 3, switch back to your 27-year-old body. And you're going to do a little life review. Now you're going to tell your mom, and of course you're really telling you, all the ways this has affected you. All the ways this has affected you. Your relationships, your self-esteem. And when you're done, let me know. And now I want you to tell her, you know what, Mom, that's going to end here today, because as a little girl, I didn't know. I thought maybe this was my fault. I thought it was something I did wrong. But now I know that wasn't true. You just had issues you didn't know how to deal with. And I want you to tell your mom all the ways your life's going to be better now that you're free of this. Now that you know what you deserve and you're ready to show up for you. All the ways your life's going to be better. Okay? And now I want you to squeeze your left hand to that fist again, and I want you to step inside your mom's body again and fill her up on the inside of her heart, her mind, her energy body, all those empty places, all those hurt places. Fill her up with love, acceptance, feeling wanted, good enough, heard and seen, support, empathy, compassion. And tell me, how does your mom's facial expression and body language change? And tell me out loud how she looks different.
She looks a little younger and not so tired.
Beautiful. And step inside of little Kayla and fill her up with being supported and being shown, feeling empathy and safe and loved. And how does little Kayla look and feel differently?
She's giggling.
Giggling. Beautiful. And I want you to imagine something completely different, something where your mom shows that empathy and compassion. And tell me what you choose to see and make up.
My mom's holding little me and rubbing my back.
Oh.
I'm crying.
And how does that make Kayla feel?
Understood and seen.
Understood and safe. Beautiful. So I want you to take those 3 deep breaths and say once again in your mind, I'm safe now. It's over. I'm safe now. It's over. I'm safe now. It's over. Three more. I am understood. I am understood. I am understood. I choose to understand and trust myself. I choose to understand and trust myself. I choose to understand and trust myself. Now relax your fist. And I want you to move to this scene with the boy on the bus. And I want you just to see him in front of you. He can't move, he can't speak. He's locked and frozen in time like a freeze frame. But he's going to listen. He's going to listen to everything Kayla has to say. Once again, you have privacy in your mind, but I want you to let this little jerk have it. Now we're going to give him the compassion in a minute, but first you need to dump the trash can and say everything. Call him out. And when you have said everything, let me know. Now I want you to imagine that God shook him by the shoulders or maybe slapped him upside the head and got his attention. The light bulb goes on. He knows what you said is true and he feels bad.
Mm-hmm.
And when you can see that look of remorse, say, okay.
Okay.
Now I want you to squeeze your left hand to that fist again and step inside of his body and fill that young boy up with the things that he wasn't getting at home. Love, compassion, empathy, acceptance, feeling heard and seen. And how does his face look different?
He's just smiling.
Smiling. And how does he, what kinds of things does he say differently and do differently?
He's just with his guy friends.
So he's just not saying anything?
Not picking on you.
Not picking on you. Okay. So just kind of like he's just over there doing his own thing.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. And then step inside of Kayla and fill her up with feeling loved and accepted and good enough. And just free of this. And how does she look and feel differently?
She's on the bus talking to her girlfriends.
And how does she feel just being able to do that without this other worry?
Free.
Free, yeah. So take 3 deep breaths and say, silent your mind, I am free. I am free. I am free. It's safe to express myself. To my mom, to my girlfriends, it's safe to express myself. And it's safe to be happy. I don't have to wait for the other shoe to drop or be on guard. It's safe to be happy. And I am free. And keep squeezing your fist. And just move forward in time, around the time when you were meeting Andy, maybe that very, very first red flag, the small one. And step inside of that, Kayla, and fill her up with knowing that she's loved and wanted and good enough, heard and seen. She trusts herself. She listens to herself. She expresses herself. And how does she look different? And how does she handle this relationship differently?
She doesn't run to his aid. She does her own thing.
Awesome. And how does she feel having the strength to do that?
It's really good.
Yeah.
Strong for sure.
Yeah. And she knows who's first now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not Andy. He can deal with his own issues, right?
Right.
Okay. And then keep squeezing your fist and move forward to that first red flag with Robert. And in the old memory, you didn't trust your gut, but now you've learned to express yourself, to listen to yourself, to understand yourself, to trust yourself. And how does that Kayla look different, feel differently, and what action does she take?
She respectfully vocalizes her discomfort with the situation, and she leaves the relationship.
And she leaves the relationship?
Yeah, on good terms.
Awesome, on good terms. And how much grief did she spare herself by doing that?
Months.
And how good does she feel about herself having the courage and the strength to speak her truth and take action?
Really good.
Yeah. So I want you to take 3 deep breaths and say, silent your mind. I know who I am and I like who I am. I know who I am and I like who I am. I am a good person. I need no one's endorsement to tell me I'm good. I know that I'm good, not in an arrogant way, in a deep, rich, resonant way. I am a good person, and I need no one's endorsement to tell me I'm good. I know that I'm good. And keep squeezing your fist. And allow your unconscious mind, which processes millions of bits of information per second, to take these wonderful realizations, new awarenesses, resources of love, acceptance, strength, courage, understanding, backwards and forwards in time to all of those little Kaylas from the day you were born up until today. I'm going to count from 1 to 5. On 5, your eyes will open. Feel wonderful in every way. 1, knowing I'm safe now, it's over. 2, I am free. 3, it's safe to express myself and safe to be happy. 4, I am a good person. And 5, eyes open.
Good.
Awesome. So, let's just test, because we kind of, like I said, sometimes, well, I didn't actually say this. So we know that there were several issues you wanted to work on, right? Mm-hmm. So if a seed of self-doubt gets planted in childhood, right, that seed can grow into a tree. Uh-huh. Now, that means you may not feel good enough in your relationships or your weight or your job or your whatever, right? Mm-hmm. There's branches. Now, what most people do is they trim trees. Mm-hmm. Don't want to die, right? Read the self-help book. Mm-hmm. But what happens when you trim trees, generally speaking? They grow back. Yeah. Most of the time. Now, you may manage to chop one branch off completely, like I dealt with that weight thing, or I dealt with that whatever. But a lot of times these issues are actually tied into the same root system. Mm-hmm. So my approach is to pull those roots out, like go back into those early memories where this all began. Mm-hmm. And when we do that, if you pull the roots out of a tree, what happens? Clunk, right? So then we plant a new seed of I'm good enough, I'm wanted and loved. And then that can grow. So we don't know, like I said, your homework is really just to pay attention to what you notice. I'm not suggesting that we resolved every issue you ever had in one session, right? But we do get a lot of bang for our buck because of that approach. So the anxiety that you mentioned also is probably directly tied into this stuff with mom and the boy, because you didn't tell me any other really horrible stuff that happened to you, right? So I would say, I always say people give it a week or 2 to let the dust settle. Mm-hmm. Let's schedule another session. We can come back and let people know how you're doing. And then if there's other things you want to work on, we'll do that at that time. Does that sound good?
Sounds good.
Awesome. Any questions, comments? Yeah. How are you feeling?
I feel lighter.
Good.
So that was nice. Thank you, Serena.
My pleasure. Yeah. When you think about Robert, how do you feel?
I have more compassion for him. His little.
How do you feel for yourself, though?
I think ready to let that go. Close that chapter. Good.
So, cool. And if that's still hanging on in a couple of weeks, then we can maybe do something more specifically just to get rid of him from your consciousness. Okay. Okay. It's not like you're going to forget him completely, right, but change the movies. So what happens is sometimes, even though people do us wrong, there was a lot of good, right? And so as those good movies play, they're like, for the good times. Oh, yeah. For the love. You know what I mean? And that's what makes us keep pining and hard to let go. So it's just, the brain is just a computer, right? And once you've made that, it's my job to align your subconscious with your conscious choice. I can't tell anybody in my chair, make them stop smoking or make them stop eating cookies, right? Yeah. It's my job. You decide what you want, and then I help align your subconscious with that. So if you make the choice and the decision and you're truly, firm in that you want to just kind of forget about them as much as possible, then we can change the movie so that your brain's neutralizes the positives, kind of emphasizes the negatives, so that when you think about them, you're like, I want no part of that. Right. That kind of a feeling more. Okay. So, good. Okay. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you. That's cool.
Yeah, I have no idea how much time went by. I think it stopped at some point.
Oh no.
Oh no.
Did the phone turn off?
Oh no, it's still going.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I think.